Last week, some of the most powerful people in medicine gathered in San Francisco and said something that patients have waited years to hear. Prices are under pressure, pills may replace injections for millions, and executives finally admitted that more than 1 million Americans have already stepped outside the branded system just to afford treatment. I was not in those rooms, but the reporting that came out of them matters to every one of us using GLP-1s. Let's talk about what was said, who said it, and what it could mean at the pharmacy counter. Hello and welcome to the Downsized. My name is Christopher Durham, and this is the channel my wife Lorraine and I created after we began treating the disease of obesity with GLP-1s in September of 2023. Since then, she and I have lost more than 150 pounds together. I've personally lost 100. Before these medications, my life was ruled by food noise, by constant hunger, and by the belief that my body was broken because I was weak. Today, I understand that obesity is a chronic metabolic disease, and these medications gave me the first quiet I'd ever known. We talk about that adventure every day. Our personal experiences, the latest research, the good news and the hard news, and the complicated system of drug companies, PBMs, insurers, and pharmacies that decide whether regular people can actually afford treatment. Before we begin, Lorraine and I are not doctors. Nothing you hear today is medical advice. These are prescription medications, and any decisions about your health should be made with your own medical professional. If you find these conversations helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps other people who are struggling with obesity find real information instead of noise. Last week, the business side of medicine held its biggest annual gathering. The J.P. Morgan Healthcare Conference took place in San Francisco, January 13th through the 15th, 2026. This is not a medical congress. This is not researchers debating clinical trials. It is a financial and industry conference organized by J.P. Morgan Chase, where more than 10,000 investors, analysts, and executives talk about revenue, pipelines, and market strategy. Big pharma CEOs present to Wall Street. Private equity firms look for acquisitions. Insurance and pharmacy benefit managers listen for what is coming next. Even though patients are not in those rooms, the decisions made there shape what our medications cost, which drugs move fastest through development, how insurers design coverage, and whether pills replace injections. Now, I did not personally attend this conference myself. Everything we discussed today comes from published reporting from CNBC Healthy Returns, Reuters, Barron's, Biopharma Dive, PharmExec, and published press releases. Prices are under pressure. So let's start with Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk delivered some of the clearest language of the week. CNBC's Healthy Returns reported CEO Mike Doustar saying that 2026 will be the year of price pressure. Reuters expanded on that message, reporting that Novo now believes oral GLP-1 weight loss drugs could capture more than a third of the overall obesity market by 2030. Executive Vice President Ludwig Helfgott told Reuters this shift reflects real consumer behavior, with many people choosing pills and paying out of pocket even without insurance coverage. Early launch data supports that view. Investors Business Daily reported that the oral Wegovy pill secured more than 3,000 prescriptions in its first week in the United States. And analyst Umar Rafat called that a solid start, with the pill already representing a measurable share of total Wegovy use. Barron's described Novo's broader strategy as more than a product launch. The company is rebuilding home delivery support through Novo Care Pharmacy, targeting patient groups that have historically been reluctant to begin injections, and using the pill as an entry point into long-term care. Reuters also noted that Novo priced the oral Wegovy option at about $149 per month for uninsured patients. We've talked about this extensively, deliberately setting a new reference point aimed at drawing people away from alternatives such as compounding and expanding the treated population. According to CNBC, three forces are colliding. Supply is improving as factories produce more doses. The pricing agreement Novo and Eli Lilly reached with President Trump in November created political pressure to show relief, and lower-priced versions in international markets are influencing U.S. expectations. Doustar told CNBC, when the price goes down, you feel the impact of it immediately. Then Dustar addressed the issue almost no pharmaceutical CEO had spoken about this openly: compounding. He said that as many as 1.5 million Americans may be using compounded versions of GLP-1 drugs. He did not dismiss that number. He described it as proof that the official market had failed to meet consumer needs. Dustar explained that many of those patients were drawn to alternatives priced around $199 per month, far below typical branded cost. He said, compounders understood consumers' needs better than the pharmaceutical industry initially did, capturing the part of the market most sensitive to price. He added that this was not because millions of people preferred unsafe medicines, but because the system left no affordable path. At the same time, Novo has warned repeatedly about the risks of unapproved online products, while trying to separate legitimate telehealth pharmacies from dangerous sellers. Novo was clearly surprised by the strength of consumer demand and by how quickly patients turned to state-regulated illegal compounding when branded options failed on price and access. In the same interviews, Novo executives tied the rise of compounding directly to their oral strategy. A daily pill, oral Wegovy, they argued, could reach people deterred by injections, refrigeration, or stigma, including men and younger adults, who have been slower to adopt injectable therapies. Taken together, these comments show a company trying to respond to patient behavior, patient demand, rather than dictate it. Novo Nordisk is openly preparing for a market shaped by price sensitivity and preference, not only by patents. Next up, let's talk about Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly used the meetings to underline that obesity is not a single drug story for them, it is an ecosystem. Biopharma Dive reported that CEO David Ricks told analysts the company's oral GLP-1 or orforglipron is moving through FDA review at pace and could be available as early as the second quarter of 2026. It's actually a bit later than we had hoped. The timing is intentional, aligning with expansion of Medicare Part D coverage for obesity medications. Lilly described the pill as an entry point for people who hesitate to start injections and as a potential maintenance option after initial weight loss. Reuters added that Lilly intends to price orforglipron at roughly $150 per month for cash-pay patients, a deliberate effort to reach people excluded by current insurance formularies. That approach marks a sharp break from the first generation of GLP-1 pricing. Another focus for Lilly was Lilly Direct, the company's direct-to-consumer platform. Biopharma Dive noted that more than 1 million people have already used that channel to access GLP-1 medicines, and executives framed it as a way to reduce friction created by pharmacy benefit managers and to make pricing more transparent. Pharmaceutical Executive magazine summarized Lilly's tone as a move from one flagship product to a portfolio of metabolic therapies supported by digital access and global launches, pill, pen, and future combinations rather than a single path. So, orforglipron, tirzepatide, and eventually Pfizer came with a catch-up strategy and a big checkbook. CEO Albert Bourla said Pfizer is all in on obesity following the company's $10 billion acquisition of Metsera. That deal delivered a pipeline of weekly and monthly injectables, amylin combinations, and oral GLP-1 candidates. The most candid moment came when Bourla compared today's market to Viagra. Reuters quoted him saying the cash pay segment was far larger than expected and that the market operates almost like Viagra, where people were willing to pay and buy it, although it was not reimbursed at all. He confirmed plans for up to 10 phase 3 studies this year, an aggressive push designed to offset Pfizer's upcoming patent losses. Analysts now see obesity as a market that could exceed $150 billion annually by 2030, and Pfizer is positioning itself for that reality. Now let's talk about Viking. Viking represented the next tier of innovation. The company announced that results from the Phase 2 venture trial of VK2735 were published in the journal Obesity. Participants receiving weekly injections saw up to a 14.7% average weight loss after 30 weeks, with generally mild to moderate side effects and no plateau. Viking is advancing into Phase 3 under the Vanquish program, including Vanquish 1, with more than 4,600 participants, and Vanquish 2 focused on people with type 2 diabetes. An oral formulation also produced up to roughly 12% weight loss over 13 weeks, showing Viking is pursuing multiple formats. Reuters quoted CEO Brian Lin saying interest in obesity deals is broader than is visible, a signal that larger pharmaceutical companies are quietly evaluating many entry points. They're looking for stuff to buy. Amgen's story centered on durability. Reuters reported extension data from the phase 2 MariTide trial showing patients could maintain significant weight loss when moving to lower or less frequent dosing in year 2. Earlier in the study, participants lost up to 20% of body weight over 52 weeks, though gastrointestinal side effects were common. MariTide is designed for monthly or even quarterly injections and uses a different mechanism, GLP-1 activation with GIP receptor blocking, a distinctly different pathway from Lilly and Novo. Additional data in people with type 2 diabetes showed HbA1c improvements alongside weight reduction, and Amgen has launched multiple phase 3 trials out to 72 weeks, including studies in heart failure and sleep apnea. One of the most unconventional ideas came from Wave Life Sciences. Their program WVE-007 does not act on GLP-1s at all. It uses RNA interference targeting, INHBE, a genetic regulator of fat mass. Early single-dose data showed GLP-1-like reductions in fat, raising the possibility of treating obesity more like high cholesterol with infrequent, long-acting therapy. The company described plans for once or twice yearly dosing and a multi-dose phase 2A study in 2026. If that approach works, obesity treatment could shift from weekly routines to something closer to an annual check-in. MBX Biosciences focused on convenience through chemistry. Their lead candidate, MBX 4291, is a long-acting GLP-1 and GIP prodrug designed for once-monthly administration. The goal is smoother drug levels, fewer gastrointestinal swings, and better tolerability, something I know a lot of you would like. MBX executives framed this as a move from weight loss to weight loss maintenance, and they signaled additional candidates later this year aimed at even longer intervals between doses. Across all 7 companies, the same picture emerged. Oral options expanding the front door, longer-acting injections improving adherence, new drugs designed to act on multiple biological pathways, and price pressure deciding who actually benefits from the science. Analysts can debate pipelines, forecasts, and market share. That has its place. But it is not the most important perspective in this story. The most important perspective belongs to you, the patient. Because none of this matters if people still cannot afford treatment and cannot get coverage or cannot access new therapies when they launch. What matters is what actually becomes available, what insurers agree to cover, and whether these next-generation drugs meaningfully change real lives, meaningfully change real health. So as we look ahead, the real questions are not just for Wall Street, they're for all of us. Which upcoming GLP-1 or metabolic drug launch matters most to you? What new therapy could most dramatically change access, affordability, or outcomes? What would finally make long-term treatment feel sustainable? If these conversations matter to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Downsized. It helps other people navigating obesity find real information grounded in patient experience, not just investor slides, and it supports what we do here on a daily basis at the Downsized. Thank you for watching. My name is Christopher Durham, and we are the Downsized.